Before we get started, I want to give a thank you to our sponsor, A Day in the Life Records, run by Dan. Dan has a rich, deep history in the music scene and owns a gorgeous record store located in downtown Lancaster. Dan specializes in all things alternative, hardcore, punk, and so much more. Make sure to check him out, buy a record, and enjoy some fresh tunes.
Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Nick, your host of On the Scene with Martini. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget, you are the scene.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Nick, Honestly with Martini. Today I got Michael from Spiritual Cramp. How you doing today?
Doing good, thank you. How about yourself?
Good, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
I'm just gonna start off strong with I made an Instagram post last year of like my top albums of 2025, and you guys made the list very easily. Rude was
Thank
definitely
you.
an album for me that I don't. It was a very different album than what was being put out at that time. I think that's kind of what stuck out to me.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we worked really hard on the record, and it did feel like it resonated with people. Sure. Yeah, definitely felt a period of growth in the band with so if it felt like people were into it for the most part. A couple people probably didn't like it here and there, but that's the name of the game when releasing art.
Yeah, I feel like it's safe to say that majority of everyone liked it though. Majority of the general alt scene population enjoyed it.
Yeah, it feels like the response was generally positive for sure. Couple of people here and there. I think like some of the criticisms I saw were that it sounded too good,
Hmm. Yeah.
which I understand. We're a punk band, right? And some people expect it's because listening to music, it's so subjective, right? And people are allowed to like whatever they like. And there have been parts of Spiritual Cramp that were a little bit more rough around the edges, and I think a very small amount of people, but some people were like, "Oh, this is too big. It's too clean.
Hmm.
The songs are too big." We went into it trying to write big songs, and but that was really the only, which is like it's totally valid. That's a totally valid critique of the record if that's not what you are looking for in the art that you're digesting. But yeah, I definitely felt positive response from people for sure. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. And we're definitely gonna do a deep dive on the new album Rude, but just kind of do a deep dive on yourself first about like how you kind of got into music and like what were some of your like first artists that got you into like the alternative scene as a whole.
Yeah, totally. Think that, I mean, going as far back as I can go, I think which is this is a common theme, I think, for a lot of people, but it was skateboarding for
Okay.
me. Skateboarding was the first thing, and then it was skate videos, and then it was hearing songs on skate videos and connecting with those. And I think that there was a skate video that had an adolescent song called Amoeba, really fast punk song, where he
Hmm.
just says the words amoeba over and over again for the chorus. And I think was the first time, and also my grandparents, I grew up in a town called Vancouver, Washington, and I would go to California during the summers to visit my grandparents. They lived, I mean, this that sounds a little opulent, oh, I visited California, but it was not. It was like they lived in a very small house. Would go to my grandparents' house in the summers, and they were very Christian, and they had all of the Christian networks. And when I went to their house, I wasn't really like allowed to, watch MTV or Fuse or any of that stuff. It was kind of off the table. And but there was this show. It was called G Rock, which was a punk leaning Christian skateboard, surfing, and snowboard show. And they had a No Effects song on there. And I remember hearing that and thinking, I want to know what that is, and I want more of that. And that was the kind of my first time I remember ever feel well, the first time I ever connected to music was in church and watching people play music, the drums and the bass. And I remember, I was probably 5 or 6 or 7, and I remember thinking I wanted that. And I think that, then it went to skateboarding, and then, from skateboarding, it was the first time I heard punk. And then what happened was, is I met a kid when I was like 13, and he was in, yeah. So with the interest in music from being young and hearing it on skate videos and from church, I met a kid who was involved in punk when I was like 13, and he knew about all the bands. He went to my middle school, and he showed me AFI and the Misfits and No Effects, and I think that was it. I heard that, and then it was kind of off to the right.
Did you kind of feel like when you were so like you went over to like your grandparents and stuff to like watch like you would watch TV like any normal kid, right? And like
Mhm.
not having access to those channels, was it like kind of like your goal to find something similar, or did you kind of just stumble upon it one day?
I for sure was searching for something.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was searching for. I was searching for a way out, if I'm being honest with you. I don't. I always, whenever I do these stuff like this, I always find myself going really deep. But that's the thing with art, is it's connected to you on such a deep level, right? And so, like, what was happening to me at the time is a pretty bad, like, home life. There was not a lot of predictability. It really, really destabilized environment, and there was not a lot of money there, and or access to resources. I didn't have things, and so I needed out. I needed to get out of there, and I needed something to take me away from it. And I think music was what, at first it was skateboarding. That was the first act that I had ever taken part of, that made me feel present and made me allow myself to enjoy the present. And then music was the second. And so, yeah, I think, like, initially when I was, going to my grandparents' house and, you know, looking for a uh, skateboarding television show on whatever the Christian network was. It was like I was just looking for something to be interested in, and something I felt that I could put myself into, because I'd never had that before. I was like 13 years old. Never played sports. I never did poorly in school, and that was the first thing that I remember ever being really drawn into. And so, yeah, I was just searching for something.
Being 13 and still trying to like find something, was there a few years in between that? Because that's obviously like a relatively young age to get into the music scene that we're a part of. Did it take a few years for you to go to like your first show or anything, or were you itching to do that pretty much right away?
Yeah, it took me a little while to figure out how to get to shows, because, my parents weren't going to drive me, right? They weren't interested in that. And so I had to go with friends whose parents were taking them, and ended up, going to see, I went and saw Poison Idea play in Portland with Flogging Molly.
Okay.
And yeah, it was a great show. And I crowd surfed, probably a sophomore. Well, I think I probably got to, like, 15
Hmm.
or something. But maybe I was 14, 15, and ended up going to shows up in the Portland, Vancouver, Washington music scene. I was still too young to be participating in an actual music scene. Just didn't have access. I think if I had access to a car that would take me to those places, I would have been every weekend. But Yeah, I think around like 16, 17. So what happened was is my parents sent me to live with my grandparents from Vancouver, Washington. They sent me to California to live with my grandparents in California, Northern California. And and that was the first time I ever was able. My grandparents, they kind of gave me free will to go wherever I wanted. And that
Mm.
was like when I started a band. That was like my first real high school band that played shows, mm, which which was a great learning experience. But really, by that point, I was into like smoking weed and drinking. So like, I learned about, when in California, I learned about partying and, kind of community, and it wasn't necessarily the healthiest community because I was kind of looking for, you know, chaos, punk rock and chaos. Mm. But yeah, participated in that music scene for a long time and then ended up in San Francisco. My wife, who I've been with for 21 years, we were really young when we got together. I think I was 17. Mm. She around like 23. I played in a bunch of bands like no one cared about, basically, for
Hmm.
for lack of a better term, but just learning how to do it. And then ended up moving to San Francisco. And when I moved to San Francisco, that's when things felt like they got serious. I think it was about 2 or 3 years after that is when we started Spiritual Cramp, which was in 2017 is when we started Spiritual Cramp.
So just a few questions, like backtracking, and like if this gets too personal, please let me know. But I was just curious, like so you said that you lived from your parents to your grandparents, and like your grandparents were very like religious per se, and into
Mhm.
that scene. Did you find any type of like, was there any moments where you did something that like they would blame the music for or the scene that you were a part of or anything like that that kind of caused a riff or anything or?
No, because by that point I had learned how to keep what I liked hidden.
Okay.
It was like this like secret thing. And my life outside of their home was very good at just having that be this wild and crazy thing. And then, obviously with, I was into like graffiti and stealing and all that kind of stuff. And so like I was okay at keeping it separated. There were a couple of times where like the cops came to their house to like find me for like an arrest warrant or something like that, when I
Yeah.
was when I was really young. But they by that point, because I had such a brutal upbringing, right? In my really young developing years. At the time I was like 17, I was so maladjusted that my grandparents, who I was living with, they were just like, we're not going to try to control him. And it was just, he's out and he has a place to sleep. I had a place to sleep, and I had some food, and so it was like there was no like back and forth about you know behaviors, or
Hmm.
they were just like, this kid just needs a place to live by that point, because I was already so far gone.
So like
Yeah.
fast forward then to like having your first band, more of like a high school band you were saying.
Yeah.
Were you always a frontman or did you like play instruments and stuff prior?
Yeah, I played guitar primarily in bands.
Did
Sure.
did you
That
find
was
that
my
hard
first love.
did you find that hard to give up with Spiritual Cramp?
Definitely when we started the band, I became the singer by default because I had written all of the guitar parts for the first 7 inch, and we recorded it. But I don't think the vocals, if memory serves me correctly, I don't think the vocals were that we had some other plans. We wanted someone else to sing on in the band, and I was supposed to be the guitar player. And I just went down one day and took a stab at singing on it. And the guys were like, "Oh, so you have to sing on this. You have to be the singer here." And I just sang on it. I don't think that I ever thought that the band would become what it is today. Like a real band. I
Hmm.
just thought we were doing another project. And so at the time, I didn't ever expect to be like this a real front facing person, I guess. I just thought I was singing in a local punk band. And
Oh, sorry.
no, 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 go ahead.
I was just wondering too then, like this being, you were kind of saying like you were taking a stab at it. Was this your, like you might have done like backing vocals and stuff in the past, but was this your first time taking like that real front role of singing? Like have you sung before prior?
I had sang in a band, yeah, like a hardcore band before. And that band was actually, it was honestly, it was quite well received locally. It was probably like the thing that I had done that people were the most into, that I got like that like cool people were interested in.
Hmm.
And I remember thinking, oh, that's interesting. Like the one band, out of the 20 that I've been in that I sing in, which I'm not supposed to be a singer, I'm supposed to be a guitar player, is the one that like, is getting the most attention. So yeah, it wasn't. So I kind of knew what I was getting into. I had played shows a bunch, done a couple short tours with the band that I sang in. And yeah, definitely was not the first time I had sang.
So then jumping into Rude, obviously the album that I would say really kind of puts you guys forward on the map, if you will. Um, you guys released a actually, sorry, let me restart that.
Oh, you're good.
With Rude and stuff, you guys put that out in October, and I was just kind of curious because I love reading like the little Apple snippets sometimes, just because sometimes they can be so
Hmm.
silly and sometimes they can be so awesome. And the Apple snippet for you guys, they compare you guys with a taste of Devo, Interpol, and the Ramones. I don't know if you've ever
Evo,
seen.
Interpol, and the Ramones.
Do you feel like that relates at all to your album, or was that something? Was there any influence that you guys had on the record?
Yeah. Oh, 1 second. Hold on. Sorry.
No worries.
Come in. Hey, don't have a thermostat in here. No, sorry. Work right now.
You're good. You're good.
Um, we're getting all the apologies. You're gonna have a lot of editing to do.
You're all good.
Um, what was it? You said it was Devo?
Interpol and the Ramones. That's how they
Yeah,
that's how they compared your last album.
yeah. That's definitely. I like that. Those are all three bands that I love, and that is like if there was a diagram of where I would love my band to live, I do think it is in between those bands. I think it's, you know, Evo is a progressive post-punk band, little wiry and zippy, and Ramones are classic driving charge punk, and Interpol is more laid back and cool. And those are things that I am trying to embody with what we do. So yeah, that for sure resonates with me. And I think it's cool that it says that.
Was there any bands like going into it that obviously you guys kind of have a developing sound and I would say that you guys kind of fall under a ton of different genres with the recent album. Was there any bands or anything that really stuck out to you or albums that you were like, well, I don't want to be this band, but I kind of like taking that snippet or hearing that sound a little bit?
Yeah, I think that there are many influences for our band. I think that most prominently, I think bands like Block Party influence Spiritual Cramp. I think bands like The Clash influence Spiritual Cramp very heavily. I think bands like artists like Santi Gold. There are specific artists who thread the line between indie rock, pop music, and punk that do so very well. And those are the ones that I think influence us directly.
Did you guys, when you guys were trying to like figure out like your songs and like how you're doing like your track lists and stuff, you guys have a feature with Sharon Van Etten.
Yeah.
Was that like, was that kind of something that just fell into your lap, or did you guys just go out and like were looking for someone to feature on a song? Because I feel like that's kind of, I don't want to say a wild pull, but two different ends of the spectrum in a way, clash into the one. And that song really does work. So I thought it was really cool.
Well, thanks. Yeah. We were looking to have someone sing on the record, a couple people that we were talking about, and I just sent Sharon a text. She's a friend. And I just sent her a text and I said, "Hey, would you want to sing on a song?" And she pretty quickly wrote me back and said, "Yeah, of course. Can you send it to me?" And I don't think she said yeah at first. She said, "Can you send it to me and I'll check it out?" And I sent it to her, and we were working with a producer who she had worked with too. So I said, "Hey, we're here in the studio with John. Would you want to do this?" And she was like, "Oh, you're doing a record with John. That's so cool." And so yeah, she's just such a she is an artist that I have a lot of respect for. I think I've said this before, but Sharon is not someone who chases celebrity.
Hmm.
He's someone who chases artistry. And I love that because, in music, you do meet people who you think to yourself, oh, you're really comfortable trying to become a big, loud front person. And that's okay too. Like you're allowed to be whatever you want to be as an artist, but that's not what I want. I don't want to be some gigantic presence. I want to be quietly respected. And I want my band to do well. And I don't think that those things are binary, right? Like success can be a million different things. You can be very popular artists and still be very quiet and very thoughtful. And I think Sharon does that well. Whereas, someone like Phoebe Bridgers is a great example of someone who's like that is I would not say she's chasing celebrity because that sounds a little derogatory, but she's someone who's more comfortable navigating her career in the very public spot. And you can kind of tell that like that's okay with her. And I think that's cool too, but from an inspiration perspective, I am trying to be someone who is a little quieter and and not saying Phoebe's, just loudmouth.
Yeah, some
Obviously, she's
belligerent person.
yeah, yeah, I mean no, but you can tell she's comfortable being a superstar,
Yeah.
and it almost, in a way, feels like that destiny calls her, right? Whereas me, like, I don't feel like I'm called to be a superstar. I feel like I'm called to be someone who, if you know, you know. And if you don't know, someone who you're with might know. And be like, hey, that's like Mike from Spiritual Cramp. He's like really cool and quiet and he's like super mellow. And so I think like Sharon inspires me to do that. And so to be able to have her sing on the record was an honor for me.
When you guys play, like you guys kind of use the lingo of like the rudest band like out there. Like that's something that has been said a good bit with your like marketing and just in general with the new album and stuff. Was
Yeah.
that something like to me that's like you want to be loud or is it more so like that's your punk rock side and then like you have like your quiet reserved life as well?
Yeah, totally. I think that when we were making the record, what happened was is our producer John was dialing in a guitar tone with our guitar player, and he turned around and he was said something to the effect of, That's a rude tone. It's kind of rude, you know?" And I thought, man, that is exactly the point of view I am trying to express with this band in some ways.
Hmm.
Right. In others, it's supposed to be thoughtful, but in some of the ways of the point of view of the band, it is supposed to be rude. And so when we decided to call the record Rude, and we were like, well, where are we going on tour? And we're like, well, what are we going to call it? And Jose, who is our art director, said he's also our auxiliary percussionist. He said, why don't we just call it the rudest band in the world tour? And now people are like, oh, it's the rudest band in the world, and it's people say that, and like, well, kind of. We're also like four sixths of us don't even drink,
Yeah.
like, and we all work out. Our emphasis is on eating healthy and working out every day. So, but like, yeah, like the whole rude thing, like that point of view, that is also a part of what started the band, right?
Hmm.
Like when we started, we wanted to come in like a powerhouse and drink all your beer and smoke cigarettes in your house. And was like part of it. And then what has happened is over the course of the 8 or 9 years we've been a band, like I found some, and my point of view changed drastically. And so, but I do think that it's wrong to completely switch things on your fans. I mean, you're allowed to do whatever you want, right? Like you're allowed to have every record sound different. But to me, we started this band and it had a very decided upon point of view. And I try to keep that point of view present in the art that we are making. Even if I am not the rudest guy in the world these days. We played a hometown show the other day in San Francisco. I said on stage, I said something to the effect of, a lot of you people have seen a lot of different parts of me, because it was like a bigger show and there were a lot of friends there who had, been at the first shows.
Hmm.
And then they were at the ones in the middle, and then they're at the bigger hometown shows. And I think that, there's a lot of different parts of me in the band, and being the rudest band in the world is certainly one of them.
Do you feel like being in so many different bands too, and like having different roles, being in different types of genre, do you feel like you've grown as an artist, like as a frontman with Spiritual Cramp, especially more recently?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Spiritual Cramp is the only band I've ever been in that has gotten to tour with the Hive and gotten
Hmm.
to tour. We've got Spiritual Cramp has gotten to tour with some of the biggest punk bands of all time. We've gotten to tour with Iggy Pop and the Hives and Rise Against. Those are really big bands. And those are bands who have been around for a long time. And so getting to see those bands every night and go on tour with them, Viagra Boys too. That's another band that we went on tour with. And you get to see those bands every night and they teach you a lot. And you learn a lot about being a front person and what it means to put on a show and thread the line between being funny and serious. And yeah, for sure. This is the only band I've ever been in that ever pushed me like that.
Do you feel like you being on those kind of tours, but then also recently you guys had a huge headlining tour in February and March, that you have a different approach on stage at all in comparison to having a bigger venue with bigger bands that you kind of have to, I don't want to say steal the show, but you're the opener in that regards in comparison to like being the main the reason, mostly the reason why people are there to see your headlining show.
Yeah, for sure. Um, all you can do is be yourself. If you're on stage in front of 4,000 of someone else's fans or 500 of yours, all you can do is just be the authentic version of yourself to people, and hopefully they're into it.
Hmm.
So no, I do what I'm called to do, I guess, for like lack of a better term. I just get up there and let it rip. Some nights I'm being aggressive. Some nights I'm feeling a little more reserved. Some nights I know some nights I'm being really aggressive and then moving into being reserved on stage. I think that it's a it's an ever-changing thing for sure. But all I can do is just go out there and be me,
For
and hopefully
your
people like it.
for your recent tour, you guys played for about a month, pretty much all over the US and stuff. Also, you guys played with some, I thought it was cool the bill that you guys were putting together, because they were usually very like eclectic, but you also like you had bands like Fentanyl and No Guard and Restraining Order, all bands that are in their own regards relatively big, if you will, in their scene. So I thought it was cool how you guys put all those bands into different pieces into your whole tour. Was that a thing that you guys wanted to do, like having more local supports at certain areas, or did you guys kind of just want to have different bands on different areas?
I I think that the most important thing for our headline tour for all of us was putting together a tour so that every night, everyone in our band got to watch great music.
Okay, that's fair.
And because you play a lot of festivals, or every once in a while you'll go on tour with a band that might not be your favorite band, but you know that it's a good opportunity for you to be there. And so when I started booking the tour for the Rude tour, I just wanted to put a bunch of bands I like on there, man, and make sure that every night, no matter what, we were playing with bands that we were all stoked to see. And yeah, that means that sometimes so we had some local bands, and sometimes we didn't. And it was like different legs with different bands. But it just kind of ended up that way. We were thinking about maybe having one band on the whole thing, but it just didn't work out that way. It ended up being a bunch of different legs, and it kind of was fun for me to put together. I was like, okay, this band is from over here. We'll have them, be direct support, and then this is a cool New York band, so let's have Lucy open up the New York show, and yeah, like sometimes like sometimes there weren't openers on some of those shows, and it was like just the tour package or whatever, and so it's just because like. There wasn't that band, that we couldn't find a band that we were like, okay, let's have this band play that we all love. I couldn't find it. And so if there wasn't a band that I was gonna love and think was really cool, I didn't want to play it. Um, and that's no shade to anyone who submitted to the tour. Like there were some bands who were trying to get on it, and like I just think that like there's so many things that are a part of a decision when putting together a tour. And to
Yeah.
me, it just ended up piecing it together like that, and it was really fun. It was a lot of work,
Yeah,
a lot
I'm
more, a
sure.
lot more work. It was a lot of work, but I think it ended up well, and it was really fun, and we got a lot of compliments on the curation of it.
Yeah, and I totally think that I talk about this quite a bit, honestly, on my podcast where we love eclectic bills. Like something
Yeah,
just having different genres, or not even different genres, but different types of hardcore or punk, but all still the same genre makes people appreciate those opening bands more too. And like and at the end of the day, like you're trying to get openers, but you're also trying to give them an opportunity to grow their platform. So I think it's cool that you guys were including all those different types of bands.
yeah. Like I just want the people who are at our shows to see music that I think is sick. And the playlist that was playing in between bands is all music that I and the band put together because we're like, all right, who do we want to be playing over the speakers in between bands? Like, cool. So we threw together like a 4-hour playlist, right? And so it's like when you're at a spiritual camp show like that, you're getting to see bands that we like
Hmm.
live, and in between sets, you're listening to music that we think is cool. And I just like if that resonates with people, sick. And if not, whatever. You know,
Yeah, put your earplugs in even
Yeah,
louder.
put your earplugs in. Wait, go out, go have a beer in the bar. Wait for us to play.
With your recent tour as well, with so many different bands, this is something that's like obviously pretty popular in the hardcore punk world of like doing like splits or like 7-inch splits. Do you ever
Yeah,
foresee Spiritual Cramp doing something like that?
yeah. We did a split with White Reaper in 2024, and then we did a tour to support that split. It was really fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. We love doing splits. Yeah, we love doing splits, and definitely are always open to it. We do you know who Dan the Automator is?
It sounds so familiar.
Look him up. He's a very, very cool hip hop DJ producer. We made some songs with Dan the Automator that I think we're going to release soon, which were cool. And yeah, for sure, always down to do that stuff. We love to, we did a song with RXK Nephew,
Mhm.
who's this incredible rapper, and that's only on YouTube. So it's like you can only listen to it. It's not on
That's cool.
DSPs or anything like that. But yeah, maybe we'll actually put that up on DSPs. That'd be really cool. Yeah, for sure.
When you guys are doing that, like being with like White Reaper, and then like you're talking about like having like a rapper and DJ and stuff, like you guys are definitely experimenting with like different genres and stuff. Is that something that you guys kind of use those opportunities to do?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, if you like see us play or like listen to our records, like you could tell that we're inspired by hip hop music, and we're inspired by reggae music, and we're inspired by Sharon Van Etten and Interpol, but also Thin Lizzy. Like there's so much that goes into what we do. And yeah, for sure. So anytime there's an opportunity to collaborate with someone, I don't really like collaborating with people who are too close to us. I think
Hmm.
that's boring. It's like, oh, hey, it's like someone in a one click away adjacent band on their song. How predict like that's predictable. Whereas like I think that when you have Sharon Van Etten on a song or RXK Nephew or working with Dan the Automator, it says something much louder about where we're trying to take the band. And that's way more interesting to me than being like, hey, here's someone who you could imagine you would totally guess we would have them on our record or whatever. I just like I want to push the boundaries, man. I want people to um know that we're different.
For sure. And I think that especially this past album, people definitely see that. And even like all of the different like mini live shows that like you guys kind of did like not like per se an acoustic live show, but you guys did I'm blanking on the name of it, but you guys did that live set where people were like sitting and stuff and you were sitting to sing too. I forget what it was
Oh,
called. Was that
was it the Q101
was that the
thing we
alley?
just did? No, the alleyway was just us in a band. We just did a session at Q101
It might have
in
been that.
Chicago where I sat and it was a pretty stripped down version of the band. We've done a few of those for sure.
I,
Yeah, we'll do anything. We'll play in like a punk rock alleyway or like a radio station acoustically. Like or we'll play, opening for the Hives or we'll open for Interpol. It's like we can occupy many spaces.
for sure. But also too like this is for being a part of so many different genres and liking so many different genres, influences, etc. Do you have any like guilty pleasures that like you always play that like when you're with like your friends that you're like, I'm sorry, but I need to play. Like for me, I'm a huge hardcore punk fan, but I am also a huge Leve fan. Like I absolutely love
Mm,
and adore Leve. Like,
sure.
do you have one that kind of speaks out to you?
I mean, like if I'm just selling myself out here, like fully on guilty pleasure, yeah, Morgan Wallen.
Really?
I love him. I love Zach Bryant. Like I'm a big top 40 country guy.
Really? I wouldn't have guessed that.
I love like hit factory pop songs, pop like music that is made in a lab.
Yeah.
Also, I will say Machine Gun Kelly is another person whose work I spend a lot of time listening to because again, it's just these gigantic songs that are absolutely supposed to be on the radio.
Yeah.
And I think stuff like that's super cool. And it's like ear candy, I love ear candy. I love easy listening. I'm a simple man, So like that music really speaks to me.
That's funny. So my girlfriend gets so pissed off when I play music in the car. And there's one band that she doesn't care as much for, like that I play, and it's your band. Like she does not get mad when I play you guys. And
Yeah.
she is the biggest Morgan Wallen fan. So after this, I'm gonna have to tell her. She's dragging me to see Morgan Wallen in Philly, and I told her that she's not allowed to post any pictures or tag me or anything in
No, dude, rep it. It's
it.
cool.
She's like, you got to dress up as a cowboy, and I was like, maybe I'll wear a short coat.
No, you
That's as
put
far.
that you put that you put that cowboy hat on, brother. Yeah, like I think like what you're saying like speaks to my sensibilities as a songwriter
Hmm.
and as a musician. Like I like music that sounds like Spiritual Cramp, that is really poppy. Like if you listen to The Rude, you're gonna be like, oh, this is like an extremely poppy record, but it's still punk and it's still indie rock and it's still but I work really hard on songwriting. I
Hmm.
want those songs to be that ear candy that Morgan Wallen is. I just want it to be the cool guy post-punk version of that.
Yeah, and
And so I
you
think
hit that.
I think a lot of people will tell me that. They'll be like, "Yeah, my girlfriend loves you." And I'm like, "That's really great feedback." A lot of couples come together and they'll like come to our shows and be like, "Hey, you're our band." Because the dude will be like, "Oh, I like punk." Or whatever it is that they like. And yeah, people have described us as girlfriend rock, which is cool. I like that. I want that. I want to be the crossover between some some punk skinhead dude and his girlfriend who doesn't know anything about the culture, where that she could be like, put that one band on, So that's really cool to hear. That's like job well done.
Yeah, when I went to go photograph Drain recently, and I was
Mhm.
like, "Do you want to come with?" And she was like, "Play a song," and then I played it. She goes, "No, not really." So I think you guys definitely hit that mark. And next time you guys will be around, we'll definitely be at your show for sure.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, for sure. Bring her out.
and then speaking of shows, you guys don't have a ton. You guys obviously came off a pretty big leg, but you guys don't have a ton booked right now. That's public, but you guys have Bonnaroo booked
Yeah,
for June.
yeah. Play
S-
Bonnaroo.
Is that like one of the more bigger festivals that you guys have played so far, or?
We've played a lot of festivals. I'm not sure how many people go to Bonnaroo, but we've also, we played Download Fest in England. We've played Reading and Leeds. We've played Riot Fest. We've played a lot of festivals.
Hmm.
So at this point, we're pretty accustomed to being on lineups like that. And like if I'm being honest with you, like playing a festival like that is always a crapshoot. You never know if it's going to be like really good or it could be really bad.
Yeah.
It's kind of always one or the other. It's never like down the middle. Always a great set or always like, oh, we played it 1:30 p.m. to no one on a
Yeah.
on a Friday, which does happen from time to time. It happens less nowadays. We'll see. Hopefully Bonnaroo is fun.
You're talking about like other festivals and things that you've been a part of, and you mentioned like too in the UK and stuff. When I first listened to you guys, I'm a huge Fontaines fan, and like
Mhm.
that kind of came right to my head like when I first heard Rude. Like this is kind of like because that Irish punk, honestly, the UK punk scene is like blasting off right now.
Yeah.
Um, do you guys get that kind of respect when you're going overseas and stuff, like when you guys are playing? Obviously, like Fontaines is headlining Glastonbury, but I just mean like coming from America, having that escalon of the punkiness that they kind of adore over there.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. We get a lot of love over in the UK, for sure. People, I mean, it's like anything you do. There are going to be moments where it's going very well and moments where you feel like it's going okay. But yeah, for sure. They treat us well. And when we go over there, we will have people come up to us and this always happens, but they're always like, oh, you guys would be English. You're American?
I thought you
And
guys were English too.
yeah, everywhere we go, even in America, we'll play a show and people will be like, where are you guys from? I'm like, oh, we're from California. They'll say, it's weird. Your style and the whole thing feels so, because it is. Since we're inspired by, Joy Division and we're inspired by, bands from a lot of Manchester music and a lot of bands from London. That's primarily where a lot of our influences are coming from, for sure. So it makes sense. And yeah, they show us love over there, for sure.
And then just to leave you with one final question, what would be like, what is your next, not your next tour, but what is a venue or even like a country that you guys would really like to play at since releasing Rude?
You know, we just sold out this venue in San Francisco called the Great American Music Hall, which is just a gorgeous, it's like 700, like a 700 cap room, beautiful pre-earthquake San Francisco. That was on the bucket list. I think that now we're looking at doing a venue called the Fillmore in San Francisco, which
Hmm.
is to me, my gauge of success within the band's growth is always measured at home.
Yeah.
So, being able to go to, the Great American and sell that out the day before, and then now know that, the next venue we're going to play is at the legendary Fillmore in San Francisco. That's pretty exciting. I think probably the Fillmore in SF. I think like, yeah, it's really like the Fillmore in San Francisco. I mean, yeah, there's like places all over the world, and I'm excited to watch the band grow in those places. But to me, the most important place is always the city that we were born in, that the band was born in, and that's San Francisco. So to me, like just going from, we started playing like our first show was at like a 40-person room in San Francisco, and then eventually we did a bunch of tours, and then we end up selling out like a 120 cap bar, and then we came back few years later and sold out a 400 cap room, and then we came back and sold out a 700 cap room. And so like to me, and if I think Fillmore is like 1200 cap, so like probably go to the Fillmore next and hopefully sell that out. And yeah, the rest of the world, that's going to be what it's going to be. But to me, I'm I'm focusing on home.
That's cool. I feel like when I don't ask that question all the time, but when I do ask that question, a lot of people will be like Japan or like some like random country in Asia. I think it's cool that like your goal is to grow, obviously the band as a whole, but like at the end of the day, like your hometown people were supporting you from the get-go. So I think that's really
Yeah,
cool.
I just want to be a big local band. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? That's all I wanted. I always wanted to just be in like a cool, popular local band, and like the rest of the world just kind of became a part of it. And when we go to Japan, I'll be very excited about that. But like that was never like a part of it.
hmm
It was always to me. I just wanted to be cool in San Francisco, and then now that we're like, now that it's growing there, people are like, okay, yeah, let's do like 700 tickets in New York. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, as long as we get to come home and play the Fillmore, we'll do that or whatever. But
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And
thanks, Nicholas. I appreciate it.
guys, there'll be a ton of links down below. I'll just link Spiritual Cramp's Instagram. That'll probably be the best place to keep an eye out for future announcements. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do and put out next. Thank you so
Thanks, dude.
much.
Appreciate
Till,
you.
till next time. Peace, guys.